For the past couple of months, I've been working on an indie game with zero budget. And in this video, I'm going to give you a breakdown of the limited spending I've done, where I chose to spend the money, and how I think indie developers should spend money when working with a tight budget. By the way, I got a new mic, so if you're into audio or you just have any feedback on the sound, let me know in the comments. So, the title of this video is Making an Indie Game with Zero Budget, but that's not entirely accurate. I was working on this project on and off for almost 4 years, so I went back and totaled up all the money I've spent on the game in that time, and it came out to $972, which is certainly more than zero, I'll admit. In fact, it's actually a lot more than I thought it would be. But still, if you're trying to release an indie game that makes a little bit of money, $1,000 is a pretty modest amount to spend, especially when you consider that the spending happened over the course of multiple years. Alright, so now that you know the budget, let's jump in and see where I spent that money. And I'm going to go chronologically starting from the beginning. The prices are in US dollars and the dates are in US format. For the early purchases, I don't have the exact date they were made, so it's just the year. Around 2020, I started doing game dev with the Godot engine. I knew I wanted to make a pixel art game, so I bought the Aseprite pixel art editor for $15. This was definitely a good purchase because I use Aseprite all the time. Soon after I started, I commissioned a character sprite with a couple of basic animations for $60. And this was the first mistake I made. I made a lot of mistakes, especially towards the beginning. I found the absolute cheapest artist I could, who did a good job for the price, but the style wasn't quite what I had in mind. I also realized that if I wanted more animations for the character or different clothing styles, I would have to commission those. If I wanted other NPCs to match the character, I would have to commission those. So basically, if everything was custom, it would cost an insane amount of money. For that reason, I ended up not using this character in the final game. Next, I bought some world tile sets for $10. I used these as placeholder art for a couple of years, so definitely worth the money. Next was a music commission for around $60. Once again, this was a mistake. The artist did a decent job for the cheap cost, but the game wasn't ready for music. I ended up changing the gameplay so much that the music didn't fit anymore, so I won't be using it in the final product. My last purchase of 2021 was character assets for $2.50, and those replaced the earlier commissioned character. This was just placeholder art and definitely worth the couple of bucks it cost. In June and July of 2023, I spent $46 on new assets. These replace some old placeholder assets and will make it into the final product. Starting in July, I bought Twitter Blue for $8.50 a month in order to post about my game. I haven't canceled my subscription yet, but I probably should. This was a waste of money, and Twitter seems to not be a very good platform to advertise your game, and I haven't even been posting there. I won't go into too much detail here, but basically you get zero organic impressions without followers, even with Twitter Blue. I found a lot more success posting on YouTube and Reddit for free, both of which provide substantially more impressions. My next purchase was $19 worth of assets to replace placeholder art. In December was my biggest single purchase, which was the logo and Steam capsule art commission for $400. Like I said previously, commissioned art is expensive, but I'm really happy with how the capsule turned out. So this art is my primary branding for the game. It features prominently on the Steam page, and I also used it for some of my social media profiles. After that, I commissioned the same artist to add some animations to the capsule art for $150. And this was so that I could use the art on the main menu of the game and it wouldn't just be a static image. Finally, I bought a new mic and pop filter for $150. The mic is an Elgato Wave 3 and you're hearing it right now. I bought the mic because the first video I made started to take off on YouTube, but the audio quality was quite poor and I had a lot of complaints about it, to say the least. I decided that I was going to be making more YouTube videos about the game, and it was worth it to upgrade the mic. And that is everything I spent so far. The total comes to $972. So I'm editing now, and I realized that I forgot one of the bigger purchases that I made, which was the Steam product submission fee for $100. That's the fee that you pay to have your game listed on Steam. And that also goes to show that you should definitely be keeping track of expenses as they occur because it's pretty easy to lose track of them. I might have missed one or two small purchases related to the game, but I think I got most of them. I actually wasn't writing down my game expenses before this video, but I would recommend doing it. It helps put things into perspective and lets you reflect on whether a purchase was worth it or not. I wanted to conclude with two major takeaways that I have regarding making a game on a limited budget. Number one is don't commission art or music until you absolutely have to. Commissioned art is very expensive. Your game is going to change over the course of development, and you may find that if you commission art too early, it doesn't get used in the final product. Instead, use placeholder art that is either inexpensive or made by yourself. I think my biggest mistake with budgeting was those two early commissions that I ended up not using. It only cost me $120, but that's over 12% of the total budget just thrown away. So you could definitely waste a lot of money on unnecessary commissions. The best thing I did was save most of my final asset purchases until the game was advanced enough that I knew I would need those assets. I also want to say that if you're operating on a limited budget, you simply won't be able to afford custom art for everything in the game. So either get an artist on your team, learn how to make art yourself, or find cheap assets that will work for your game. My second takeaway is that with a limited budget, spend money on capsule art. I added 3 exclamation points so you can see how important I think this is. The branding for your game is everyone's first impression of it. You want your first impression to be as good as possible. You need a professional artist to make your capsule art. If you plan on selling your game, this is not optional. Compare my Steam page with the placeholder capsule art, made by myself, to the Steam page using professionally done art. Nothing else has changed, but the branding makes a world of difference. Keep in mind that when people first see your game in the store somewhere, let's say in their discovery queue, they're not going to see the Steam page. They are only going to see the capsule art. If you only have a little bit of money to spend, this is where it needs to be allocated. And that's all I have to say about budgeting. If you want to check out my game, it's called Wild's Edge, and there's a link in the description. If you have any questions or comments about my budget, feel free to leave them down below, and thanks for watching.